Right, picture this, massive flames lighting up the night sky over the deserts of Qatar, missiles streaking across the Gulf, and global energy markets thrown into chaos. It's been 48 hours since the sky over Ras Laffan turned black. On March 18th and 19th, the unthinkable happened. Iranian missiles struck the heart of Qatar's industrial crown jewel, the Ras Laffan industrial city. Hello and welcome to NewsX Deep Dive. My name is Vineet Malhotra, and we are diving deep into one of the most dramatic economic stories unfolding right now in March 2026. At the center of this is a single massive industrial complex called Ras Laffan, the world's largest hub for liquefied natural gas, or LNG. The images coming out of Qatar are more than just a military update. They are a preview of a global economic shift. While the fires at the Pearl gas to liquids plant are now reportedly contained, the financial heat is just starting to spread. As of March 20th, we are looking at the wreckage, not just of steel and pipes, but of supply chains, energy markets, and the cost of living from London to New Delhi. Ras Laffan is home to the planet's largest LNG export complex, run by state-owned Qatar Energy. It normally pumps out around 77 million tons of LNG every year. That's roughly 1/5 of the entire world's supply. Qatar is the second largest exporter on the planet. But after this week's strikes, which was a retaliation for the Israeli hit on Iran's South Pars field, the math has changed. Qatar Energy has confirmed the damage is extensive. We are talking about a loss of about 12.8 million metric tons of LNG capacity every year for the next 3 to 5 years. That is nearly 17% of their total output gone in a weekend. And it's not just the volume. The Pearl GTL plant is offline indefinitely. For Qatar, the price tag is staggering, an estimated $20 billion in annual revenue loss. They are declaring force majeure on contracts. Oil prices jumped 10% almost instantly. Brent crude is sitting above $108 a barrel, having peaked near 119 in some frantic trading sessions. This is the highest we have seen since this conflict began earlier this year, but the real pain is in the pipes. In the UK and Europe, natural gas prices have surged between 11% and 35%. UK prices hit a 3-year high today because LNG infrastructure takes years to build. The Strait of Hormuz is slowing to a crawl. Tanker traffic is spooked. Stock markets are reflecting that fear as well. And the FTSE 100 fell 2.4% and the Nikkei plummeted 3.4%. Even worse for the average homeowner, bond yields are rising, which means mortgage costs are about to climb again. Right when we thought inflation was cooling off, traffic through the Strait of Hormuz has experienced a severe disruption, with commercial shipping activity plummeting by over 90 to 95% following the outbreak of conflict between Iran and the US-Israel coalition. The narrow waterway usually handles around 20% of the world's oil and natural gas. Let's see how this hits home. India gets about 40% of its LNG from Qatar. They have a long-term deal that was supposed to keep things stable until 2048. That stability, well, it's evaporated now. The fallout is likely to hit 3 specific areas. Agriculture. India is the world's top urea importer. Right now, fertilizer plants are only getting about 70% of the gas they need. Some have already shut down for maintenance. If fertilizer gets expensive, food gets expensive. The kitchen pipe to natural gas for homes is under threat. With the existing LPG crisis, families are looking at a very expensive winter. Industry, the steel sector, the MSMEs that supply companies like JSW and Tata Steel are likely to face a propane and LPG shortage. This isn't just about corporate profits, it's about millions of jobs in the manufacturing belt. India is facing a wider trade deficit and a massive energy security risk. When 40% of your power source gets hit by a missile, diversification becomes more than a buzzword. It's a survival strategy. Let's also look at a clear rundown of the key attacks reported so far as of today in Qatar beyond the main hit on Ras Laffan. Earlier incidents included drone strikes on related facilities like the Masay, the petrochemical complex. In Saudi Arabia, Iranian drones and missiles struck the Samaref refinery in the Red Sea port of Yanbu, sparking fires and briefly disrupting loadings. Other reports mention threats or incidents near Jubail petrochemical sites and even earlier damage at Ras Tanura refinery. In Kuwait, two major oil refineries, Mina Al Ahmadi and Mina Abdullah, were hit by drones, igniting fires and forcing shutdowns of units, though no injuries were reported. In the United Arab Emirates, gas operations were shut down at the Habshan gas facility and the Bab oil field after missile interceptions led to debris impacts and declared dangerous escalations. So, where does this end? The short answer, it does not, at least not soon. These repairs are estimated to take about 3 to 5 years. We are entering a prolonged period of high energy prices. The WTO has already slashed global trade growth forecast to a measly 1.4 to 1.9%. And this wasn't an isolated hit. We have seen strikes or shutdowns at facilities in Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, and the UAE. Analysts are warning that if the escalation continues, we could see oil hit $150 a barrel. The European Central Bank cut its growth forecast and raised inflation forecast for this year as it warned of the energy price shock from the Middle Eastern war. We are staring down a regional recession and global stagflation. The situation is incredibly volatile and we may look long-term consequences at hand as well. Let's talk about this with our guests. Joining us on the show is Mithali Nikore, economist. Mithali, appreciate you being here with us. Mithali, perhaps this is the right time to understand how important Iran really was to the rest of the world. The Americans have attacked it with no regard or concern as to what it has done to its allies. If the forecast is that the inflation and the stagflation is going to continue for another 3 to 5 years, that's not good news.
Absolutely, Vineet. And honestly, there was a headline in the Atlantic just 2 days ago which said that everybody understands what the American administration, what the president has done, aside from the president. Because this entire domino effect that we see on the global economy today, this was expected. Every political analyst, economist, security expert would have been able to analyze this situation ex ante and would have probably advised the president not to go ahead, not to actually do this attack, not to actually provoke this situation, especially given the resignation that we see of the national security advisor in the US. We've seen that the head of the department has actually resigned, and he has said that he did say that Iran posed no imminent threat to the US. In fact, even other officials have actually said that Iran was not actually rebuilding its nuclear program. So in this situation, to actually launch this domino effect on the global economy, to me at least, suggests something very, very different was the aim. Possibly the aim was to rewire global oil supply chains now that the president and the United States have come into a lot of oil through their work in Venezuela and through the capture of the Venezuelan president. So maybe they want countries to be buying more expensive oil 2 years down the line when Venezuelan oil becomes available on the global market. That will be a very big shift in the way supply chains are engineered across the world.
Mithali, also talk about the oil prices which are going up very significantly by the day. How is that likely to impact India as well? As per a number of forecasts, the Indian GDP was quite promising for 2026. Is that going to be impacted?
So I think, Vineet, every country is going to be impacted because at this point in time, we are going to be seeing some of the major impacts, especially on economies like India. The first is a slowdown in global demand. So a slowdown in global demand essentially means a lot of our export related growth that we were banking on through the trade deals that we had recently signed. Already we went through a very poor year on with respect because of the tariffs, right? When the president came in April last year, and after that the entire tariff regime that was unleashed on the entire world created a lot of distress But to be fair, at this point, that distress was managed, especially in India, because it hit mostly MSMEs. And I actually witnessed the government and state governments in many, many states providing support to the MSMEs that were impacted by the tariff orders. We withstood, we actually took that shock and we absorbed it. But this shock, this is not just a shock that is going to happen only in the export sector, but it's going to first hit the export sector, where a number of countries will find it very hard to absorb this level of consumption. So consumption demand is likely to slow down. The next step would obviously be the slowdown in investment, because when your consumption slows down, it's a cyclical impact, investment slows down. All of this can be mitigated with de-escalation. If the war stops, these impacts stop and we start to rebuild. But at this point in time, it almost seems like neither party, and rather neither, I mean, I'm saying as though there are two, all parties actually are not showing any signs of slowing down, and that is very concerning for the global economy.
Mithali, appreciate you joining us. On that note, we take a short break. Be right back.